that come from all the African countries together does not succeed the number of Ukrainians currently in this country. So this shows also that within the media, there's always this perpetuation of
more
referring to Africans, and in the deportation, these are mostly the examples. But if you look at the numbers of people that came here, and also what economically people are contributing to this country, more than 30 milliard euros on taxes comes from people, and people, no, not just African in general, all the people that migrated. And so that part of the fact that Germany is benefiting from that, the part that Germany needs us to be there, because a lot of our people are the ones that take care of the elderly, that do cleaning, that, you know, provide so many beautiful variety in terms of food and culture. So it's quite a significant contribution, and quite clearly that the economy needs our people, yet we are still on this legacy of colonialism and slavery, and the kind of racist images about our people is what's prevalent. And in that sense, there is very little empathy with the kind of pressure and difficulties that we face. And yes, in some cases, people, you know, don't feel supported even by our own communities, and they give up.
So day by day, I also realize that we have more and more organizations that have been put up within our community. And if we look at the connection amongst us, is the major thing that we need, but it's not that strong. Because until we get to a point where we are able to build up institutions that can cater for our own needs, then we can say we are strong enough to venture on a journey that we are all looking at. And what is that journey? That equality, that financial stability, that cultural strength, all those things that we need or we had as a people back then, that is draining before our eyes. And we see a lot of division amongst these organizations. Sometimes we don't really want to work together as a people, which I think is something that we need to do. Remember, there's a saying that goes, thus together we stand, divided we fall. And we are so divided to a point where when we look at how much potentials we have, some of us just drop down into tears. Looking at this particular division amongst us, what do you think can be done as a remedy to put all together to have a unified front?
So Tubman Network currently has a program where we collaborate with other Black organizations to learn from one another and to speak openly amongst ourselves about the challenges we face, and to share strategies and find solutions together. And that's, for me, also a very important program, with thanks to the Deutsche Stiftung für Ehrenamt, which is really about increasing the capacity of collaboration and trust between Black organizations. And not everyone is willing to participate, because I think there is a kind of agenda often of dissing people and criticizing them and excluding them, and there isn't really a good way of dealing with conflict. I mean, it's very clear that we are a very diverse community with lots of different levels of development, just like all the others. I mean, there isn't unity within Europe, if you know what I mean.
I understand.
If you look at Also between European countries, the situation isn't ideal, but still, we have a European Union. And I pray that one day we can say we have an African union, because, it does not yet exist in the same way, in that we have one currency and that we can travel between without, visa requirements, etc., etc. It's very necessary to promote that Pan-African unity, and also within our communities here, to understand that even, when there are differences, there must be ways in to overcome them and to collaborate again. But you see, the funding system is also made in a way that we compete with each other. So unless we are strong to kind of forge alliances and grow beyond that, and find our own way and independence out of the funding that we expect from the government or other kind of ways, unless we decrease that dependency, then we're always also in a situation where, as long as we are acceptable in the things that we do, we get some money. And I've seen that in the Netherlands and in other places, where all of a sudden the political winds change and the money stops and the whole system crashes down. And what then? Yeah, so I'm always trying to build also communities that, even if there isn't money from the outside coming in, it is carried from within the hearts of people in a way that it will survive such a fall from grace. Because in the end of the day, we will not find a way forward if we don't invest ourselves. You've mentioned earlier the Turkish community, the Chinese community, all of them. There were so many times that the value is spent within their own communities, supporting their own. And how many of our brothers and sisters, the moment they get the money, they will spend it on XYZ white so-called experts. And yes, that may look like you got it easier, and you might be seen as doing well, but I think that it's kind of like shooting in your own foot, because if you don't practice what you preach, the people on the other side, they cannot relate in the same way to our brothers and sisters. So it is not as effective, in my opinion, to really serve the needs of our people from within.
So this that you said, I've picked up a couple of things. Mm-hmm. First, the funding, which I think is a bigger problem. The funding, you cannot, let me give you an example. I should be practical here. Now, I, as a father, would only give you what you need, not what you want. One, I see fit for you. Mm-hmm. That is what I'm going to give you. Mm-hmm. So there is no way I'm going to give you medication to the sickness that I gave you that is intended to kill you. It's the same thing that most of the organizations are facing when you talk about the funding here. We cannot be radicals for change, yet we go to the person that is causing us problem for support. That is not going to be, it's not going to be realistic, because I'm only giving you a solution to the problem that I caused for you. So this is why most often they handpick those people that have organizations with the visions that pampers their ego. You get that? So this is why those brothers or those sisters who are on that side will hardly work together with those that have a very, very radical approach to this same change that we are seeking. And if we say we want to have a unified front, we should also try to put up a mechanism for conflict resolution. After the radical phase, how do we put things together and work as a people? There is no home that is too stable. In my own family, we have issues, but we don't make it public like that. So after we argue, we cry and we rub shoulders again, and we get to understand that, okay, we have a common goal. What is our goal? We are not our own enemies. We all are striving to attain to reach the same goal, but We should look at who is the enemy right here. It's not us. So I think it's the same strategy that the Turkish have used, or the Chinese. They will lean on each other, they will fight, they will kill themselves. But when it comes to outsiders, all of them focus to attack. The same thing that the Europeans are doing. They can fight, they can kill themselves. But when it comes to Africans, they put up a different front, because we are not part of them, they are not part of us from their minds. So this is what I hope we should be looking at, instead of, all this funding stuff. The funding is not going to come. It's not going to keep coming. The moment you derail from their agenda, they stop funding you. So what becomes of your own vision?
Yeah, so this is why it's very important to follow in the footsteps of those who taught that for a long time and who have been killed. Thomas Sankara, to name but one, Patrice Lumumba, another one. And I do have hopes that the new brave political leaders, like the one in Senegal, recently elected, can, be standing as a good example of working towards African unity and teaching us to come back to our values and our ways. Yes, I'm find it important to understand that this transformation that we're seeking as a society here in Germany is one that will require us to teach our children about the history of why Europe, disguised the fact that the Moors have been instrumental in many of the kind of achievements within their time, to understand why we don't learn about the African origin of human civilization, why we don't learn in school about, for example, the atrocities and the economical benefit that Germany has had from its colonies. All of these kind of facts are not yet within the German curriculum. So, of course, you have young people that grow up without understanding this whole context. But, teaching people about an Afrocentric curriculum, I think, is a really, really important step to understanding what's happening right now and what will keep repeating itself in history unless the truth is told, unless the hurt that was caused is recognized, acknowledged, and there are steps to remember, rehumanize people who have been dehumanized. But we are far from that at this moment, because the agenda of neocolonialism is playing out. And we feel that within the everyday racism, within the structural racism that our communities are faced with. And yes, sometimes people are also just exhausted, mentally exhausted. And one of the things that I find always poignant is that people are sort of constantly described as a minority in a minority setting. And I try and encourage our children to learn that we are a world majority. People of color are a world majority, and that we should not forget this global dimension. And that if you are too tired to manage Europe, let's come together and find ways to help one another to go home and build a sense of home. And if you feel like, no, I want to claim that home here, that is, of course, your absolute right. And you can draw on a rich history of Black Germans and Black people in Germany that have claimed this to be their place to be, that should be further developed. But for some of us, the only way to get well is to find safe spaces in Black contexts where you don't every day have to prove your worth, where you can be loved for the person, the personality, that your heart, and the way that you are, because that softness can be appreciated. And of course, we can also not romanticize living within the continent, because it's not easy either. But I do think it's paramount that we teach and focus on the young children and generations here and there, because in the end, they are our future. They will carry that knowledge, that vision, the work that we've started. They will complete that. And in that sense, in the long term, I'm hopeful that one day there will be a world in which Africans and people of color are seen and valued for who they really are, and the gifts that we have brought to this world and are bringing to this world are seen, and we're not living in a situation that makes us ill and despair and stressed out, but that we can celebrate Black joy and invest with love in our children and their future.
Right. That's a nice one to put out there. Before we go, I would like to remind us that as a people, we have given our all to the world. We have breastfeeded every single nation on this planet Earth, and we are still giving. We are becoming extremely exhausted to be giving continuously since colonialism and thereafter. But also keep in mind that there is a mantle in this present dispensation that we are carrying to keep on working. And that has to be passed down to the younger ones, which is why we do our best to come out here and speak on behalf of our people, because personally speaking, I am an example of someone who grew up in a German plantation. So I know about the remains, and I know that as a result of that inhumane treatment, a lot of us are broken because the cycle continues. Psychologically, a lot of us are battered. It's more like it's a genetic situation. But again, we have to keep on fighting. We have to keep on fighting. Anyone who practices racism of this age of 8, as in the case of this young boy, because I realized that police actually apprehended one of them. It's an 8-year-old that was questioned and sent home with her mother. If a child of 8 years can exhibit that kind of barbaric behavior, it means that is taught by somebody at home. So as African parents, we should always try to re-energize our kids, to encourage them, to remind them about the greatness that they possess inside of them, to be able to stand some of these challenges in our absence. So once again, I really want to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you for liking, thank you for sharing, and thank you for subscribing. Once more, welcome, Amal. It was a nice session with you today.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.